Brittany, and today's video is super creepy. It's all about real life encounters that people believe they had with demons and evil spirits. So I was like, this has my name written all over it, so I hope you guys enjoy. Now guys, this first story is known as the night demon. So there was this kid, they were 12 years old, they lived in this house that was like 200 years old. It was rumored to be haunted. One night they were just laying in their bed and they heard their mother come inside their room. At least they thought it was their mother. Now, I don't know if this is a guy or a girl. I'm gonna say it's a guy, so let's name him Tom. So Tom, was ready for his mom to say goodnight to him or whatever, but instead of saying goodnight, she started going on about this story about a 12-year-old girl and a demon. She started going on about this girl, she was in her bed, a demon crawled right beside her, started growling in her left ear. She then said that this little girl was praying over and over again, and eventually the demon left her alone. Tom was completely freaked out. He was literally just staring at his mom like, what the heck is this woman going on about? She came into my room, she's acting so weird, going on about this crazy story about a little girl and a demon, and as soon as she was done telling the story, she got up and left. She didn't even say bye or goodnight or anything like that. Like, it was just so weird. So after his mom left, he was laying in bed just thinking to himself, what the heck just happened? Why did she tell me this story? He was so scared. So a few minutes went by and he's still trying to figure out what just happened. Like, this guy is so confused. And then he starts hearing this moaning, scratching, growling sound coming from his left ear. He was so terrified, he could not move, he legit felt paralyzed, and all he could think of was to, start praying. So he started praying, and he felt like this growling, evil, demonic sound just went on forever. He was so scared, but he kept on praying, and eventually this whatever it was in his left ear went away. So after all of that was over, Tom was laying in his bed. He was even more terrified than when his mom just got up after telling this crazy story, and he's just like, what the heck? He just laid there in silence, like his whole room was completely silent, and eventually he did fall asleep. So the next morning, when he went downstairs, he saw his mom, and he just started, saying to his mom, like, what was that all about last night? Why did you come into my room? Why did you say that story? And his mom just looked at him like, what the heck? I didn't come into your room. I didn't tell you a story. Why would I come into your room and try to scare you? That wasn't me. So can you imagine that, the night before, you think your mother is in your room telling you this crazy bedtime story, I guess you could say. I mean, obviously it wasn't. And you wake up the next morning, you approach her about it, like, what the heck was that all about? And she says, like, that wasn't me. I don't know anything about that story. Why would I come into your room and scare you like that, So poor Tom, and to this day, Tom does not know what was in his room that night. He knows 100% that was not his mother that night. He believes it was an evil spirit. It could have been a demon. He also thinks it could have been his mother's doppelganger trying to warn him about a demon that was coming into his room and, to pray and stuff so this demon would go away. It's so crazy, but after that night, it never happened again. This next story is known as the red-eyed demon, and there was a kid when they were 7 years old. They had intense, insane nightmares almost every single night. They would wake up screaming, they would be drenched in sweat, their throat would be so sore from all the screaming they were doing in this nightmare. So I'm gonna name this kid Jason. So Jason was having these intense nightmares every single night, but the weird thing was Jason could not remember all of the nightmares. He knew he was having many because he would wake up screaming, he would wake up drenched in sweat, so he knew he was having these nightmares and he couldn't remember them except for this one that just happened every single night. Now guys, one of the reasons why I chose this story is because the dream that I'm about to tell you that Jason had over and over again is pretty much 90% the same dream that I had when I was younger. Now, when I had this dream, it was just a one-time thing, but it's one of those dreams that, you know, you kind of just always will remember, and it was something so scary. So when I was, I mean, maybe not 90% the same, but like, girl, 80% the same as Jason. So he was deep inside this pit, like this muddy pit at the bottom of a hill, and when he looked up, he would see his family looking down at him. So my dream was I was in this muddy pit. This is when I was little, like I don't know if I was 7 years old, because that'd be so crazy. I don't know, but I was definitely under 10 years old. I was in a muddy pit. I looked up and I saw my family looking down at me. So I mean, that, when I just came across the story, I was like, I gotta share this, but I find it so weird. But mine never involved a demon or anything, but it's just weird, you know? It's really weird. Now, in Jason's dream, when he looked up and saw his family, they were looking down at him, they all had black eyes. They looked so demonic, of course. In my dream, when I saw my family looking down at me, they didn't have black eyes. Like, it just, you know, that's a huge difference, I guess. But at the same time, it's the same setting, you know, looking at your family, they're looking down, you're in this pit, this muddy pit, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, in Jason's dream, something came out of the mud trying to grab him to take him down, and that's when he started climbing or trying to climb up this hill, but every time he was climbing, he would slide back down, and that's exactly what happened in my dream. Now, nothing tried to grab me, but I think I was scared that something was going to grab me, but nothing actually physically came out of the mud. But I was trying to climb, and every time I did that, I would slide back down. So going back to Jason's dream, so, you know, he's still trying to climb up this hill, and he kept, you know, sliding back down, of course, and then he just couldn't even move. He felt frozen, he couldn't breathe, and he thought that he died. So that's when he would wake up from his nightmare, and he felt frozen, absolutely paralyzed. He could not move. It was silent in his room, but he just could not move his body. He felt paralyzed, but at the same time, he felt as if someone or something was holding him down and not wanting him to move, not wanting him to leave. Then all of a sudden, he heard someone breathing, and it wasn't him breathing. It was like, it sounded like a monster breathing. He was so terrified. He then noticed this monster figure in the darkness in his room just kind of, you know, come out of the darkness in a way so he could see it. It was not human, you know, the way it was, you know, in the position that it was in. It had red glowing eyes, it was hairy, it had this huge smile, like an evil smile. And the creepiest part about this demonic encounter was the fact that Jason knew that this demon knew that Jason was finally awake. So it's almost like this demon was waiting for Jason to wake up from this nightmare so he can, you know, just be a freak. Jason then closed his eyes. He was screaming so loud. His mother then like charged into his room, turned on his light, and as soon as she turned on his light bulb exploded. And when he opened up his eyes, there was no demon. Now this last story, I feel like I need to actually read it as it was written. So this one is known as Inviting the Demon. So of course I have it on my phone here, but I just feel like I need to read it in this way. You know what I mean? Not like really tell it in my own words. I need to actually read it from the person, if you know what I mean. So, I grew up in a very strict religious household. As I got older, I began to struggle with my faith in God. When I was a teenager, I became fascinated with the occult. I came to the conclusion that the best way to prove to myself that God existed was to see if demons existed. I began collecting books about witchcraft and demonology. Looking back now, I realize how foolish I was. I didn't understand what I was getting myself into. I began reading these books and actively trying to invite demons into my life. I would read passages from the books out loud, reciting long strings of demonic names. I would draw satanic symbols on the walls and floor of my bedroom and try to cast summoning spells. The demons didn't come to me all of a sudden. They came gradually, working their way into my life. I hardly noticed it was happening until it was already too late. I started having horrible nightmares. I would wake up in the middle of the night and hear the sound of faint laughter or whispering. At first, I thought it was just my imagination. Then, things started getting more intense. Sometimes I would wake up paralyzed. Sometimes I would feel my bed moving. Sometimes I would find all of my sheets, oh my god, lying on the floor. I don't know why, that just gave me like, whew, that gave me a weird feeling. My personality began to change. I was tired all the time. I became angry and irritable. I was distant. My family noticed all these changes in me, and my parents brought me to a psychologist, but he couldn't find anything wrong with me. Late one night, I was awoken by the full moon shining on my face. I felt very strange, as if the world was somehow disjointed and I was disconnected from it. I felt like I was floating in a vacuum. That's when I looked down and realized that my body was floating above the bed. All of a sudden, I felt something grab me by my feet and start violently shaking me like a rag doll. I was being whipped back and forth. I saw one side of the room and then the other flashing before my eyes. I was terrified. Something was trying to kill me or tear me away from the world. Eventually, whatever it was stopped shaking me, and I felt myself being pressed up against the ceiling, as if it was trying to crush me. Then, suddenly, I was slammed down on the bed. I felt something heavy on my chest pressing down on me. It was as if some invisible weight was pushing me down, and it was getting heavier and heavier. I was paralyzed and I couldn't catch my breath. I remember thinking, this is just a dream. There's no way any of this is happening. Then I heard a sound I will never forget as long as I live. I heard the sound of the bed creaking. I was sinking into the bed, and the sound of the bed warping under the increasing weight was real. This was really happening. In a frenzy of fear, I burst out of the bed and ran out of the room. I went to my mom's room and woke her up. I was wide-eyed with fear and hyperventilating. She eventually calmed me down and began asking questions. I told her what had happened, but she laughed it off and told me I could stay the night in her room. The next morning, I knew what I had to do. I went back to my room and gathered up all the occult books and materials. Then, I took them outside, dumped them in a metal garbage can, and burned them. I cleaned all the symbols off my bedroom walls, and I never slept in that room again. Nothing like that ever happened to me again. I think whatever demonic force it was had their one chance, but they failed, and they never bothered me again. So those are the 3 demonic, crazy, dark entity stories I thought that I would share with you guys. I mean, they're so creepy, you know? Especially that last story, you know, I felt like I needed to read it, you know, kind of as the person. But guys, as you were watching this, or as this is up, I am at the Him concert in Toronto right now. And like, I am so excited. I am filming this on Sunday night. But I mean, I'm just like, I have been counting down for this concert, you know, since June, and it's finally here. So as you are watching this right now, like, Him is in front of me, or I don't know if they're in front of me right now, because I think I'm uploading this at 7, and CKY is opening, and along with the band 3 Teeth. Anyways, I will go now, but thank you guys so much for watching. As always, you rock my world, and the song lyrics Michael Jackson, hashtag team Pretty44, hashtag Barilla Rens, hey, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.